The day my mother looked me dead in the eyes and called me damaged goods was the exact day I realized blood doesn't mean a single thing. I was standing in her pristine, white-carpeted living room in North Carolina, holding a negative fertility test in my shaking hands, looking for comfort. Instead, she took a slow sip of her sweet tea, patted her hair, and told me that a woman who couldn't carry a legacy wasn't worth the family name. My brother Leo chuckled from the couch, not even looking up from his phone, scrolling through his social media as if his older sister's entire world hadn't just shattered into a million pieces right in front of him. 3 years later, that same proud, arrogant woman was on her knees in my driveway, crying so hard she was choking on her own spit, mud staining her designer clothes, begging me to save Leo's life. But here is the thing they didn't count on. Karma doesn't take a night off. And the very thing she called defective and broken was now the absolute only thing standing between her favorite child and an early grave. Before we get into the heavy details of exactly how the tables turned and how the secrets unfolded, real quick, where are you tuning in from right now? Seriously, drop your city and your state in the comments below. I love looking through and seeing where our amazing community is gathered from all over the world. Type it right now, because you're going to want to be completely locked in for the rest of this mind-blowing journey. My name is Hannah, and this is The Quiet Drama, the place where we pull back the curtain on the deepest secrets, lies, and betrayals that families try so incredibly hard to bury from the world. To understand how I ended up standing in a driveway watching my own mother break down, you have to understand the dynamic of the household I grew up in. I grew up in a place where love wasn't given freely as a birthright. It was auctioned off to the highest bidder. And my younger brother Leo always had the deepest pockets in the family, even though he never earned a single dime in his entire adult life. He was the golden child, the high school athlete star, the one whose massive mistakes were always laughed off and excused by my parents as just boys being boys. When he wrecked his first luxury car at 19, while doing things he shouldn't have been doing, my dad bought him a brand new model the very next morning without a single word of discipline. But when I scraped my knee, or when I stayed up all night studying and still failed a difficult test, I was met with cold stares and told that I simply wasn't trying hard enough, that I was a disappointment. The real psychological war, however, didn't fully ignite until I met and married my husband, Marcus. Marcus is a good, stable, incredibly honorable man. He is a high school history teacher who works tirelessly for his students and loves me with a quiet, protective fierceness that honestly scares me sometimes because I had never experienced that kind of unconditional love before. We wanted to start our own family more than anything else in the world. We bought a modest house, set up a beautiful nursery room, and waited. But my body simply would not cooperate. What followed was 3 agonizing years of endless fertility treatments, painful hormone needles, unpredictable emotional roller coasters, countless doctor visits, and devastating heartbreaks every single month. My parents didn't support us through this trauma. They didn't offer a shoulder to cry on or ask how we were holding up financially or emotionally. Instead, they weaponized my pain. They used my medical struggles as a tool to put me down and elevate Leo. At every single Thanksgiving dinner, every Christmas gathering, and every casual Sunday cookout, my mother would make these horribly sharp, passive-aggressive comments in front of the entire extended family. She would look at the room and say, "Well, some people in this family are blessed with full, beautiful nests and others. Well, others just take up expensive space and chase miracles that aren't coming." Leo's wife got pregnant on her very first try, and my mother went completely wild. She threw a massive baby shower that cost more than my entire wedding, filling the venue with expensive decorations. And during the party, she deliberately walked over and handed me the raw ultrasound photos, forcing me to hold them while she watched my eyes fill with tears. She wanted to see me break in public. She fed on my grief, the absolute breaking point, the day that changed the trajectory of my life forever, came on a rainy Tuesday evening when my father called an urgent family meeting at their house. I remember walking into that grand house thinking it was something serious about my elderly grandmother's failing health. My heart was pounding with worry. But when Marcus and I sat down, we realized it wasn't about grandmother at all. My father sat at the head of the long, polished mahogany dining table, flanked by my mother and Leo, who had this smug, triumphant grin plastered across his face. My father cleared his throat, opened a thick legal folder, and laid out his newly revised will and testament. He calmly explained that the family home, the massive stock investments, the commercial real estate, and the beautiful vacation property in the mountains, literally everything they owned, was being legally signed over to Leo and Leo alone. Marcus sat up straight, his face turning incredibly serious, and asked a simple, direct question. "Why are you cutting Hannah out entirely? She is your daughter." My father didn't even blink. He looked at me with cold, detached eyes and said, "Leo is securing the family line. He is giving us a legacy. Hannah, you're spending all your hard-earned money and wasting your time on expensive doctors for something that clearly isn't meant to be by nature. We are business people, and we need to invest our assets in a sure thing." My mother sat right next to him, nodding along like a faithful soldier, adding that they didn't want their family's wealth and legacy wasted on failed medical experiments for a child that might never even exist. They looked at me as if I were a broken appliance that couldn't be fixed, an economic liability. That very night, Marcus and I went home, packed our entire life into boxes, walked completely out of that house, and cut them off from our lives entirely. We blocked their numbers, blocked them on every social media platform, and refused to answer any mutual relatives who tried to mediate. We made a radical choice. We packed up and moved 2 states away to a tiny, quiet town in Virginia where nobody knew our family name. Marcus took a teaching job at a local school, and I focused on my mental health, trying to heal from the deep scars my own parents had inflicted on my soul. We spent months in therapy, learning how to build a life from the ashes of parental rejection. And then, when we had finally accepted our reality and found true peace in our quiet life, the universe decided to give us the ultimate miracle. Against every single medical statistic, against every doctor's prediction, I got pregnant. Naturally, without a single needle or hormone pill. Our daughter, Maya, was born on a beautiful, crisp October morning. She was absolute perfection. Healthy, beautiful, with 10 tiny fingers, 10 tiny toes, and a bright, joyful spirit that could light up the darkest room in existence. We didn't send a birth announcement to my parents. We didn't post it publicly where they could see it. They had lost the right to even know her name the moment they called her a failed experiment before she was even conceived. We kept our life completely private, protecting our peace like a fortress. But a little over a year after Maya was born, I came home from the local grocery store with a car full of supplies. As I turned our car into our quiet gravel driveway, my heart dropped into my stomach. There, parked right in front of our house, was a familiar, incredibly expensive luxury Mercedes with North Carolina plates. My mother was sitting on the hood of the car. She looked completely unrecognizable. Her hair was unkempt, her expensive designer clothing was wrinkled, and her makeup was completely smudged across her face from crying. The moment she saw my car pull in, she jumped off the hood. And when she looked through the window and saw me lifting a beautiful, laughing 1-year-old Maya out of her car seat, her eyes went completely wide with shock. She gasped, covering her mouth, and tried to rush toward me, crying out, "Oh my God, Hannah, you had a baby, a beautiful baby girl, look at her." But before she could even get within 5 feet of us, Marcus stepped in front of her like an iron wall. His body completely shielded Maya and me, and his voice was lower and colder than ice. He looked at her and said, "You have exactly 30 seconds to tell us why you are standing on our private property before I call the county sheriff to have you removed." My proud, untouchable mother completely collapsed right there on the rough asphalt of our driveway. She fell to her knees, sobbing so violently that she could barely form coherent words. But she hadn't driven all those hours to apologize for the years of cruelty. She hadn't come to beg for forgiveness for disowning her daughter. She didn't care about my daughter, Maya, at all. She was there because they were trapped in a horrific nightmare. 2 months prior, Leo had been diagnosed with an incredibly rare, hyperaggressive form of acute leukemia. His immune system was completely collapsing, his bone marrow was failing rapidly, and the doctors had delivered a devastating blow. None of the family members, not my mother, not my father, and not his wife, were even close to being a bone marrow match. The specialist doctors at the medical center had told them that a full sibling, or a full sibling's newborn child using umbilical cord stem cells or specific marrow matching, had the absolute highest statistical probability of saving his life. They were desperate. They had spent thousands of dollars hiring a high-end private investigator to track my movements, find my unlisted address, and discover where Marcus and I had hidden ourselves. My mother looked up at me from the ground, her hands shaking uncontrollably as she reached toward my dress, and pleaded, "Hannah, please, I am begging you on my knees as your mother. You have to bring the baby to the hospital in Charlotte immediately. The doctors need to run the genetic tests on her. She could be his only match. You cannot be so heartless as to let your own little brother die when you have the cure in your hands." I stood there in the quiet Virginia afternoon, holding my beautiful daughter tightly against my chest, feeling this incredibly deep, cold, immovable stillness wash over my entire body. I looked down at the woman who had sat at that mahogany table and watched me weep while she called me damaged goods. I looked at the woman who had systematically stripped away my inheritance, my dignity, and my position in the family because she thought my body was empty and useless. Where was this family when I was crying on your bathroom floor, bleeding out from another failed cycle? I asked her, my voice completely calm, barely even a whisper, yet cutting through her screams like a razor blade. Where was Leo when Dad signed every single piece of family property over to him because I wasn't worth the financial investment? Did Leo speak up for me then? Did he tell Dad to hold on? No. He sat there and laughed at my emptiness. My mother started screaming hysterically, banging her fists on the ground like a child throwing a tantrum. "That was just business, Hannah. That was just property and money. This is a human life. This is your brother's life. How can you be so incredibly selfish and vindictive? Maya is just a baby. It won't hurt her to just get tested. You're letting your anger destroy this family." I didn't yell back. I didn't get emotional. I slowly pulled my cell phone out of my pocket, unlocked it, and dialed my father's direct number. I placed the phone on maximum speakerphone right there in the middle of the driveway, holding it out so that my mother could hear every single syllable that came through the line. The phone rang twice before my father answered. The usual booming, arrogant, commanding voice of the family patriarch was completely gone. He sounded 10 years older, broken, defeated, and exhausted. He didn't even say hello. He just whispered, "Hannah, please tell me your mother found you. Please tell me you're coming home." I looked down at my mother, then spoke clearly into the phone. "She found me, Dad, and I'm calling you right now to give you my final official answer. Do you remember that rainy Tuesday night at the dining table? Do you remember the speech you gave me about investments? You sat there and told me that you only invest your assets in a sure thing. You told Marcus and me that my family, my potential children, weren't worth the family resources because we couldn't guarantee a legacy." There was an absolute, suffocating dead silence on the other end of the phone line. I could hear his heavy, ragged breathing through the speaker. He couldn't utter a single word to defend himself. I continued, my voice steady, solid, and filled with an unbreakable power. "My daughter, Maya, is my sure thing. She is the miracle you said would never happen. I will never, as long as I draw breath, bring her around your emotional toxicity. I will never allow you or your doctors to use her innocent little body as a medical spare part for the golden son you valued so much over me. You completely disowned me and threw me out because you thought I was empty. Now, Father, you and Mother have to learn how to live with the absolute emptiness that your own greed created." My mother let out a horrific, blood-curdling shriek of pure rage and desperation, lunging forward to try and grab the phone out of my hand. But Marcus instantly stepped in, caught her firmly by the arms, and moved her away. I didn't wait to hear my father's response. I calmly pressed the red end call button on my screen, locking the phone and slipping it back into my pocket. Marcus walked my mother down to the edge of our gravel road, telling her that if her car didn't leave our property in 60 seconds, the police would arrest her for criminal trespassing. She realized she had completely lost all her power. She got into her car, slammed the door, and drove away, throwing gravel into the air. Leo passed away exactly 3 months after that afternoon. It was an incredibly dark, messy, and ugly time for my remaining family. They tried to launch a massive online smear campaign against me, posting on Facebook and telling distant relatives that I was a murderer, that I had killed my brother out of spite. But Marcus and I kept our circle incredibly tight. We hired a legal counsel who sent them a formal cease and desist letter with a threat of a defamation lawsuit, and the posts vanished overnight. We completely blocked every single avenue of approach. Today, my parents are elderly, isolated, and completely alone in that massive, empty, mahogany-filled mansion in North Carolina. They have all the millions of dollars in the world sitting in their bank accounts, all the properties, and absolutely no legacy left to carry them into the future. Sometimes, late at night when the house is completely quiet and I am rocking Maya to sleep in her nursery, I sit there and wonder if I should have been the bigger person. I wonder if I should have swallowed my pride, let them test her cord blood, or see if there was a safe way to help. But then I look down at her sweet, innocent, sleeping face in the moonlight, and I remind myself that my primary sacred job as her mother is to protect her from the monsters of this world, even if those exact monsters happen to share my DNA. Blood only makes you related by biology. Loyalty, mutual respect, protection, and unconditional love are the only things that truly make you a family. And I will hold that line for my daughter until the very day I die. What do you think about how everything played out? Did I take my boundaries too far, or did my parents get the exact empty life they traded for? Drop your honest thoughts and stories in the comments below. Let's talk about it as a community. And if you haven't done so yet, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell so you never miss another deep, emotional story here at The Quiet Drama. Until next time, take care of the ones who truly show up for you when you are at your lowest.